Hello everyone. Today's talk is titled, How is Thought Developing for You? And before I begin, before you hear any talk by anyone else, first ground yourself and existentially be comfortable with where you are. In other words, see how you're certain of who you are in the present moment, in just one moment, and existentially in a very comfortable way, listen so you can explore the talks, not feel as if you're being judged by the talks. Which is very crucial for anything, actually, because we are interpreting judgment. To begin, very gracefully, for me as a human being, thought was not something I would actually think about at all. Just growing up, I was so busy doing different things that I did not even think of a thinker. I did not even question life to that depth. But some experiences happened, and then as life became deeper, I stopped asking questions to see what is here before I ask the question. And in a sense, some existential self-exploration began that did not want to go to read a lot or go do a lot of stuff, wanted to know immediately right here, right now. It was an instant activation kind of moment. And thought shifted in the sense, you know how you're aware that you have a body? There's an awareness that you have a body because we can talk about it, right? I have a body, you know. Or some people say no body loves me. They're aware that there's bodies there, physical body. So, as one observes the self, you are observing how thought is being kept by you. And so the thinker was found in the movement of imagery in your subtler planes of abstraction, where we've playfully, as the human race called it, imagination, As one is observing abstraction, you are in a sense questioning the deepest question known to man. What is the interpretation? Who is doing the interpreting? Where is knowing kept? And as one seeks this, it's a very fabulous phenomena happens where the being who is a character in a certain world, who is wondering, who has these deep questions, suddenly immerses to suddenly seeing how he's a character based on being aware of what made the association. What that means is we are very advanced beings, and so do not think that you're just a body, you're also the many worlds in which many bodies are present in. What that means is when you get an actuality in your experience in that very silent and still moment sitting by the lake in nature alone, you begin to observe and suddenly go through a very deep realization where one thought is being found to not be related to imagery of your past or any imagery you can compare. And it's just though. Do you know? It's as if you suddenly begin to see something but regardless of how much proof there is, you just know it. You don't know how, Think of it this way, You have a house, right? You go for a vacation somewhere and you decide not to come back for 30 years. After 30 years, you suddenly come back, and let's say you've totally forgot that you had a house, and you're coming here, suddenly you come by this block where your house was, as you return, and you suddenly say, wait a minute, there was something here. You see? And so you realize it's your house and you go clean up the dust that's both in the house and on your shoulder. Thought is a tool because it is being observed. But at the same time, simultaneously, there are projections where one can experience just being the thought. So what that means is when someone, for example, says that you're a kind person, your visualization can bring forth a vision of kindness, regardless if it's from the Dalai Lama or if it's from someone else. When one human being does something in front of you, he frees you by showing a reality. He does not free you by telling you what to do. He frees you by introducing chaos to your order, you know? And these gurus were very crazy, you know? Especially in the dervish teachings, you know? If you go Google who Shams and Rumi were and you see the relationship of these two beings, you would see a very profound glow in Eastern mysticism. Because it's not about Eastern mysticism, guys. It's about human experience. It's not about how we put words on a page and begin making our own measurements to say what is here, you know? We are more than clarification. Man requires for nourishment opening of experience. So regardless of who you are, regardless of how much you're rationalizing what I'm saying, you as a human being, for your nourishment, for your growth, require opening of experience. That means you're thinking that you are one victim and constantly seeing how this victim's suffering is not healthy. You need to be very open. You need to go through many environments, discover and explore many senses of self and see that you are not these senses of self. You're not an individual consciousness. The only reason you can be is because you're collectively kept. And when you recognize this, you see that the life you're living is based on one modality of interpretation. And as you get rid of all interpretation, as many mystics have done, you walk in this world where every moment is the end and beginning of time. Because you could be sitting on a grass, you know, field of grass, and there's nothing, you're just observantly, peacefully, just there's literally no thoughts. And suddenly someone comes there, hey man, there's this movie playing this, and just brings world projections of time, you know? It's as if time begins suddenly out of nowhere based on that guy's schedule. You know, and as he leaves and as I can't go through that movie, he sees that it ends. Time ends, you know, and I'm just standing there in just observance. When I say standing in observance, guys, you need to see language in general suggests that your idea needs to do something which is another idea. That is not how I want you to handle existential awareness. Existential awareness must be done through your sincere exploration of how you are peaceful and what peace means for you. Have you thought about it? I mean, gosh, the media is giving us a lot of thoughts and the media, the news networks are giving a lot of great ideas to people, you know, especially young children, of how much crime there is. Do you know? They're giving great ideas, but how much great ideas are being given of a world that is clear? How much in schools do they tell you that the educational system is not a system that is to teach you, but is a parent, is a guardian, it's a guide. It's here to raise you, for you to begin to see how your educational system, how your existential self-awareness works. What that means, if you were thrown in an island right now, the most peaceful island, but if you were just alone there, and let's say you had all food and everything, you know, but you were just there, present, you would see that solitude is the opportunity for individual consciousness to dissolve to the clarity of a collective knowing unspeakable but all experiential. As put by voices that could never echo. New renaissances need to occur, hopefully, and how they need to occur, guys, is very simple. Just like how Mr.Within right now is communicating, the more you communicate and the more you observe that communication, the more you become a maturity of your own understanding. So what that means is if you've gone through the same path a couple times every day, trust me, you know everything about that path, okay? The next day you're saying hi to the new pylons and new rocks that are in the whole path, you know, as you're going, you know. And so change is known through changeless intelligence, which for the individual is the letting go of individuality innately in an instant of knowing. An instant of knowing and sincerity is all you need, guys. An instant of knowing and sincerity, and you will feel your state of consciousness will change. And signs of that is that you will begin to see less self-talk when you're communicating with others. When you're talking to people, you will not have too much opinions. It is not natural. You constantly having rhythms. I do not agree with our psychology today. Because psychology is basing certain aspects of it on history, and history seems to be written by one man's story. And not just by one man, but in a sense by man's story. Do you see? We want mirrors that are showing man beyond man. And guess what? That mirror is your moment of experience, your moment of being alive. And so we will work with this, and as you develop and cultivate existential self-awareness and begin just seeing what clarity means for you, you will begin having bursts of creativity that are not coming from you, but are coming from your moment. You will suddenly go to a store and just begin to see the mind of the graphic designer on, for example, that I don't know, ice cream. What do you call it? Ice cream wrapper. An ice cream wrapper, do you know? It's like you begin to see the designs of that, and the mind gets its interpretation not from a sense of a path, not that someone is walking an endless journey in which there's suffering and joy and whatever the hell there is with the spectrum, you know, as one tries to seek the heavenly. You begin to see in your ability to be, all actions were done, regardless of manifestation level and intensity. Regardless of the abstraction, you have a way of being with yourself, not doing anything, you know, being with yourself in a way where you are all that could be. And so you're experiencing your moment of being to such a depth where the day you picked up the fruits of the tree, you just looked down at where the roots were, hidden underneath the soil that had cultivated that dimension. Just like how trees grow, you will begin to see in the subtler planes of man, there is an allowance that even dimensions grow out of one another. But again, it is based on the intensity of acceptance you have to the change of ideas. What that means is, for example, certain people with certain beliefs are not comfortable with the transition of those beliefs. So my thoughts will feel like, gosh, what is this guy saying? Let me just close the door and be in my comfort zone, you know? But sometimes people who listen to my talks begin to see that it's not about the words, but about the actuality of what one is receiving from them. I notice teachers should not waste time to, in a sense, teach the student. The teacher must be learning from its own greater teacher to the point that it is a student with all manifestation. There have been certain moments I've just been present, and it's as if, this might sound a bit abstract, but let's take it that way. Let's take it in a way, while it's just physically being somewhere, I don't know where I was. I think I was right about to go inside a building to do some errand, and right about when I was going to do a building, there was just this kind of like garden like area beside the building. You know, it was a building, it was a work building, and I just stopped and just went and just, you know, in that moment of silence, I noticed that there is no reason to be here aside from a choice made by accepting what was in the novelty of that moment. When different beings with different worlds of perception come together, they are no longer objects who are seeking intelligence. They are the greatest thoughts of man becoming the thickest bodies for a subtler plane of existential allowance. So what that means is what many people, Mr. Within finds that I've heard people go and do ayahuasca ceremonies in regards to a shamanic tradition in the Amazons. And in the sense of what happens is as if the fluctuation in the brain chemistry gives you as a full being, as an intelligent being alive, as a life form, and complete awareness of how you have kept your form in regards to an association of personality based on the routines that you did perhaps yesterday or whatever. Mysticism begins with daily tasks, you know? And as you begin to observe your daily actions more deeply, more attentively, you begin to see it was never about doing the right thing, but being in the right place, which was in a sense an awareness to all places, to all form. What that means is when I sat down and I looked in these ancient Vedic texts and I realized there were these beings, these sadhus, or who had siddhis or siddhas, in however the way the terminology is meant to be pronounced, I noticed, guys, in this ancient Vedic text, in this book, literally it was in a local bookstore, that there was a way of and a modality of human thought where the idea found liberation through an emptiness of an awareness to non-existence. You are never where you think you are. When you know there is no thinker. And when I say there is no thinker, not that the idea is not there, just the fact that you do not need to engage in such a reality of manifestation. So what that means is if each human being was a blank piece of paper, you know, printer paper, you know, and each being had a pen of their own unique color or whatever, if you saw the pages of each being, let's say as they lived, let's say 20 years, 30 years, 40 years or whatever, when they were about to die, you would see how many squiggly lines there are, and you would see how many straight lines there are and how many smooth lines there are. You see? You begin to see that how you are holding your perception of this life is as important as how you are alive. And you need to see the value in direct experience. Because without it, what are you? Do you see? Now I like it because now the audience is ready to, you know, sit at the mystic's table. You know, in many ancient wisdom traditions, they had traditions where the monks would, in the morning, the daytime, just begin talking about it. They would rationalize. They would use individuality and constantly play with it to observe it and learn from it and see through the value in the teachings that they had trusted. What that means is, in Mr. Within's view, a person who trusts an aspect of their reality is more able than a person who does not trust none of their reality. You see? And trust is a multidimensional idea. It has many levels because sometimes you see you trust some aspects of the design but not other aspects of the design. You trust one part of the system but you don't trust the other. So what that means is many people might not trust the individual part of the system, what's going to happen to me after death, but some people trust the whole system. You know, and they're saying we trust the whole maintenance of the thing. And so consciousness was that ability to not just focus as an individual body but to also focus as the reality of that individuality as well. When you begin to see collectivity, it is how your eyes are opening to that which is beyond your limitation. And so it's very nice to look at the limitless sky. Learn from your silence, learn from your stillness, just as how you have been seeking to learn from your movement and learn from your noise. There is no such thing anymore as bullying. There is just how well you are receiving the life you're living and how much you're inspired to act efficiently in your moment. So what that means is many people are in these constructs of feeling that certain harshness needs to be here because it's good. It's going to evolve us, you know. That's true, but it's also a moment of unnecessary harshness for people who do not need that experience. We must be aware of our experiences. Measurement is useful self-reflectively because it also gives you the knowing that you are creating the measurement. And so when one thinks what it means when you can see the sun, but its light is in your eyes, where you are is unknown. And so when many gurus have said, be here and now, you see there's nothing here and now. Because man is trying to obtain a certainty through ideology. And gosh, ideology crumbles at the right season. You know, just like how leaves crumble, ideologies crumble. What that means is there was a certain moment of my life where I was so convinced that I was going to be a certain somebody. And then literally like 2 months later, you know, not 2 months, but you know, a couple months later, suddenly I just totally forgot about it and I was totally into another reality, you know. We don't need to measure too much because we are constantly changing. That is simply what's suggested by and meant by an evolving being, right? And our transcendence now is getting more expression than us. Our transcendence is getting the expression of our technological advancement, and is also getting the expression of how we are interpreting ourselves as a being and as consciousness. Because there is an ability, and you see, gosh, I thought I was just living a bad job, a day where, a life where I had a bad job. But no, actually, in actuality, if you're observant, you begin to see you are living in a way where you are placed on many realities. It's as if there is so many realities and details in every act that you do, that you will begin to see every moment is connected to every other moment. And so when you look at one corner of the picture, it doesn't mean that's the only world. Multidimensionality is the rest of the picture, which requires a collective consciousness that is found through the devotion that one finds at the edge of man's experiential intelligence and intellect. So at the edge of ideas, so man is not here to sit on a couch and be like, oh yeah, these ideas are truth and nothing else is needed, you know, and just drink vodka all day, you know. Not that there's anything wrong with vodka, but one needs to advance the mind, and then one will enjoy vodka more, you know. So it's very important to see that we must push ourselves into becoming honest men, and then as honest men observing our consciousness in the sense that the order is so simply living orderly that every moment is having a complex growth. In other words, your experience becomes so complex that there's a simultaneity, but you need to calm down. You need to do less physical activity. But that's for internal work. And then external work, you need to do physical activity, you know? Gosh, I really want to hopefully really communicate a sense of a multidimensional way of talking about life in a very healthy and simple manner, and introduce this to our educational system. Because children need to know that they are more than the choices of what they physically are. They are the choiceless intelligence of the observer as well, and that is where the greatest leaders have had inspiration. Because you must see, when Martin Luther King, for example, came here, there was something in his vision, in his blessed observance, that saw the inequality and saw it in such a real way that he began to speak directly. Do you know? Martin Luther King was the cosmos' response into adjusting man's behavior. Because he, as a being, as a personality, saw and had the allowance to see that greater observance and inequality, and immediately his presence corrected it. And so he is great for his ability to trust a more greater unknown view and to observe more out of the system and to then make the system more efficient and enhance it. With a love that is caring for its advancement. Because you cannot see technology prosper to its peak unless you love it, you know? People are saying technology is going to be bad, it's going to be wrong. No. Out of your love for your moment, technology will always be a body. You are beyond the body. Do not worry about it. O human being, dance in the joy of your being. For then the human idea was never lost to its ideals. Much blessings and namaste.